So, hello and welcome to the next episode of the Self-Development with Tactics podcast. And today, as you can see, we're going to discuss the next part of the book How to Win Friends and Influence People by Dale Carnegie. This is the third time I'm making this intro. But nevertheless, the last time we stopped at be sympathetic with the other person's ideas and desires, and today we start with a really great one, because you should appeal to the nobler motives. And what this means is that you, for example, say, I know the story a little bit. It was about a guy who wanted to sell cars, and he went to a guy who wanted a car, obviously, and then he said, yes, here's your contract to buy this car, and I know that you are a really great person, and you are you're quite thoughtful, and you are let's say noble, and you're a lot of good things. So you basically tell them what they are, and then he is like, oh yeah, I am good, and so I will buy this car because I'm a good person. It was a really bad example, I'm sorry for that. But as you can see, or for example, if you tell somebody, so if you wanted, let's say, a cup of tea, if you want somebody to make you a cup of tea, then you be like, oh, can I have a cup of coffee, a cup of tea? Then he says, oh, I do not have the time right now. And then you answer, oh, I thought you would be a nice guy or a nice person. This is the nobler or higher motive. He is a nice person, or he is this and that. He's just a good person in general. And so you don't attack, in quotation marks, his personality, but you give him something he doesn't actually, or maybe doesn't actually have. And so he thinks that she or he has to accomplish what you said he was, and then he's like, oh yeah, I get you one, I'm sorry, and so on and so on, But that is something, as I said in the last episode, that a lot of people use, and most of the people don't really know that there is a real expression for this, let's say, technique. The 11th point, I don't really remember what this was about. Dramatize your ideas. Dramatize your ideas. I can't say anything about it, but maybe you get something out of this. But from 12th one, I know the story quite exactly, and throw down a challenge. And there was a guy, he had a factory, or it was a company, but I think it was a factory, yes. And at the end of the day, he went to a group of people. It was the day shift, I guess. It's the day shift and the night shift, as I remember correctly, if these are the right words. So the people that work the day, and the people that work at the night. And so after the night people finished, he went up to them and said, or the day people, but it doesn't matter. And he said, how many of the, let's say for now, computers did you manufacture today? Because maybe they're handcrafted or something. And then they say, we made 5 today. And so he took a piece of chalk and wrote on the bottom or on the ground a big 5. And the next day, when the day workers came in, they asked what this 5 was. And so the boss, the company leader, said, that's the amount of TVs the night shift manufactured. And through this, he made a challenge, a competition, and people just want to be the best. Even if it's a factory worker, let's say things is just a street cleaner, what it is called. Every person likes challenges, and I'm not really, talking bad about these types of jobs. They're really, really, really grateful for them to be existent. But you get what I mean. Just make a challenge, and people will, take on the challenge. And we came to the next section. Be a leader, how to change people without giving offense or arousing resentment. This is a really quick thing that people get offended and arouse resentment, as you might know by yourself. But the first one is here. Begin with praise and honest appreciation. It's also something we had in techniques in handling people. Give honest and sincere appreciation. And therefore, if you, for example, want somebody to correct something or do something different in their work, begin by praising and in general appreciation. And if you're like, yeah, I see you did this great and that great, and I would suggest you to make this differently. The thing is, don't use but, because everybody knows that there's the break in the appreciation, and then comes the bad part. And so just say this and that is good, and suggest somebody or advise somebody or something, but don't use but. And then you talk about the negative stuff. That's all about it. And I hope this was the right one, but it is in this book. But maybe it was the wrong phrase to what I meant. Anyways, call attention to people's mistakes indirectly. People in general don't want to get their mistakes really, praised, and you made that wrong and that wrong. Nobody likes that. It's really, really nobody likes that. But I honestly have to think about this, because I don't really remember. Call attention to people's mistakes indirectly. I don't know, but it was important. It was important. I hope that I read it again. But let's take the third one. Talk about your own mistakes before criticizing the other person. The fun thing is, criticizing may be the wrong word, because he said don't criticize on the beginning of the book. Don't criticize and condemn or complain, which I talked about 2 episodes before that. So when this is the first, then the 3rd episode. You know what I mean? But people really like it to see that you made a mistake as well. So if you're like, let's take the factory again with the TVs. When you go up to somebody who made something wrong, you just go to them and say, I made it wrong all the time myself. And oh, I exactly know the story. This was a great story. This is really a great story. there was a boss and he had a secretary, and the secretary spelled a lot of words wrong, and so he went up to the secretary and said, you know, I really misspelled all these words myself, and therefore I made myself a little book where I have all these words I frequently misspell, and then I can look it up really quickly. And then he said uh, something like, it would be nice if you just maybe consider this, or correct the the wrong words and try to to don't misspell everything. And then she really sympathized with him, and he or she he made her book, I think. So the boss wasn't really sure, but he thought, because she didn't misspell anything from that point on. And yeah, ask questions instead of giving direct orders. This is a really quick one, but a really great one. If you want somebody to make you a cup of coffee or tea, ask them, hey, could you make me a cup of coffee or a cup of tea, and not like, make me a cup of coffee, or make the computer software a little bit better, make this design better. Could you please make this design a little bit better? Could you please improve that? Could you please, eat something different? Could you please? It's just way nicer than just, giving orders to somebody. Let the other person save face. This was an expression I never heard in my entire life before I was reading this book, but it basically means that you shouldn't play with person's feelings, and you should be really thoughtful about what you say, and you really have to be secure, and you really have to be precise by saying by saying what you are saying. So the insight of this is, or the summary of this is, don't hurt other people's feeling, or try to, and never use words that you might exactly know will, and so don't do it. And the 6 here, this one, praise the slightest improvement and praise every improvement. Be hearty in your appropriation and lavish in your praise. In the book there was an example on babies, or of babies, and if you have a baby, you just really praise everything they make. If they make the first step, you praise it, and really appreciate it, and just tell them and give them cookies or something to eat, or just clap in your hands, or some shit like this, and but the funny thing is that most people wouldn't consider it when adult people do something good, or improve, or improved slightly. So if you see somebody improving in something, even though you might not really know him, maybe in class or something, just go up to him and really praise him, because criticism don't work. Praise the good parts of a person, but do not criticize him for something else. It just brings him into a position, or let's say brings, it's not right. It brings him into a position where he has to justify himself. So just praise everything, every single improvement, every really slight improvement, but hearty, not like, oh yeah, you did this great. Really, so, oh, you did this great, man. This was great. Yes. Really mean it. Don't talk about shit. Mean it. The 7th one, and we are already at 14 minutes. The 7th one, give the other person a fine reputation to live up to. Oh, I don't know this one also. I don't also know this one. Um, it reminds me on the factory I talked about before. So I tell you once again, give the other person a fine reputation to live up to. Maybe you can do something with it. I unfortunately do not. Let's take the eighth. Use encouragement, make the fault seem easy to correct. Yeah, it will nothing make better if you just be like, oh, you did a mistake, you will never be able to correct this one, and just be like, oh yeah, that's easy. We will make this. You know, because most of the time, the failures aren't that bad as you might have thought they would be. I don't know if this is right, the sentence, but just make situations worse than they are. Just be optimistic, and I try to. I the funny thing is I've read a lot of these books and I really am into it, but it's still hard for me to take all these things and put it into my life, especially in terms of character and my flaws and something. But trying is the best thing I can do. Trying different things, and you should also. I can really suggest it to you. The ninth and the last one, and then there are some quotes which will be great. Make the other person happy by doing the thing you suggest. Make the other person happy about doing the thing you suggest. Why don't I know anything about the last ones? Make the other person happy about doing the thing you suggest. I really don't know. I'm really sorry. But let's move on to the quotations. And nevertheless, you get the first one was the most valuable one for me, and the last you have to listen to the last episode. I think it was 19 minutes around that, and it was pure value. I try to give value all the time. Sometimes it works better, and sometimes it works not as good. But in terms of feelings, and by this one, let the other person save face. There's a quotation there on dealing with people. When dealing with people, let us remember we are not dealing with creatures of logic. We are dealing with creatures of emotion, creatures bristling with prejudice, and motivated by pride and vanity. And this word I can't pronounce is prejudices. And on influence, the only way on earth to influence other people is to talk about what they want and show them how to get it. That's really the truth. Don't talk about you and what you would like to have. Talk about the other person. It will make everything easier, and you will understand a lot of things. Also in terms of marketing, it just lit up a light for me. On the secret of success, if there is any one secret of success, it lies in the ability to get the other person's point of view and see things from the person's angle as well as from your own. Also in terms of marketing or selling products, if you exactly know that these types of people or this group of people need this or that, you just really have a great ability if you can do this, because you know exactly who wants this and who wants that. And so you can basically sell a lot of things if you wanted to. But we are on the bottom of this article, seems like, there is he, Dale Carnegie. And I think he spent 25 years, as I remember correctly, if I remember correctly, on this book, which is pretty amazing. But anyways, I really thank you for listening to this podcast again. I hope you got something out of it. If you have questions, if you have something to say, write it down in the comments. If you're on YouTube or on Instagram or on Twitter or on Facebook, Twitter at Self-Tactics, Facebook Self-Development with Tactics with this, this little line between each word, and on Instagram Self-Development _WT. Thank you. Love you all. Let's change it up. Woo!